Delia Murphy was quite possibly the most important person ever to be recorded in Irish folk music because she was the first to become famous for being recorded in her own accent, a fact which would pave the way for the folk revival of the 50s and 60s. Delia popularised hundreds of songs in her career that have become an integral part of Irish music culture.
The great thing about Delia Murphy is that wild, unbridled rawness about her voice.
When you think on The Moonshiner, you know, it's just, I can't hear anybody else singing it, only Delia Murphy.
We grew up with this on the radio, you know, and when Delia would be on, oh, the radio was switched up, you know, you had to listen there.
She sang with a smile in her voice.
She simply was headstrong. She had great spirit.
If Delia walked into this room now, the whole room would light up and there'd be lots of singing and lots of good fun.
She just treated the song in a very personal way, and I have very fond memories of those times, listening to those old songs like the Stone Outside Dan Murphy's Door and Dan from Connemara and If I Were a Blackbird. If I were a blackbird, I'd whistle and sing. I can still remember it.
And I pillow my head on his lily white breast.
Of the wind o'er the dark rolling deep, angels are coming to watch o'er thy sleep. Angels are coming to watch over thee. So list to the wind, coming over the sea. Delia was born in 1902 into a well-to-do family in Hollymount in County Mayo. Her father was an adventurer who had made his fortune in the silver mines in America. She was a very independent and strong-willed child, and she loved to spend her time with the tinkers who camped nearby, and from whom it's said that she learned the songs that would become associated with her.
There were a lot of people living around that area, particularly the tinkers, the Mahons, who lived at the back of their house in Mount Jennings, out the back gate, they camped out there. And Delia, I think, took to going down there. It was part of that sort of ebullience in her character. And from them, now, this is not hearsay. I've been told this. Some people say that Delia learned her songs from the tinkers. She did to a certain extent. Because if you look at a lot of the songs, if you look at Delia's songs aren't, they're not classical ballad songs. They're sort of Camogie sort of songs to a great extent. They're the sort of songs that the tinkers would sing. And I think Delia did learn a lot from the tinkers.
Delia studied music at school and she sang in the choir, and she picked up songs wherever she could right through her college days. It was while she was at University College Galway that she met her future husband, Tom Kiernan. He was her economics lecturer and he was destined for the diplomatic corps. Indeed, shortly after they got married in 1924, they had their first posting to London. Tom was expected to do a lot of socialising, and as the first real focal point for the Irish in London, they became the centre of Irish life. There were parties practically every night, and Delia did what she loved best, having impromptu sessions around the piano and figuring out what her audience liked to hear.
There might be a big to-do somewhere and she would be either hosting or she'd be there anyway in her capacity as the wife of the Irish minister or secretary of the High Commissioner in London. And typically she would want to sing. Or she'd like to get with somebody. If she met some toffee-nosed prissy man or toffee-nosed woman, she'd very quickly get out of the way because these people just made her laugh. She couldn't understand them. So she would find somebody that she could talk to and would be open with her, and then if she could, she'd get a sing-song going. She loved it.
Throughout her time in London, Delia mixed with people from all walks of life. John McCormack became a lifelong friend, as did the soprano Margaret Burke-Sheridan. Delia not only loved to perform, but she was brilliant at it. By the time the Kiernans moved back to Dublin in 1935, she was really starting to want to go on the stage. Among their other friends were some people from the movie industry, and Delia was offered a part in a film in 1935.
On the deck of Paddy Lynch's boat, I sit in woeful plight, sighing all the livelong day and all the lonely night. Were it not that full of sorrow for my people forth I go. And now, no more quarrels.
We're not quarrelling, Peg. We were just talking over our old friend, Neil.
Perhaps Eileen was right. Neil lives in a different world. Blessed Son, 'tis I live, I do sing thy praise, may all.
It was inevitable that Delia's talent would be recognised sooner or later. Keeping the company that she did, it was only a matter of time until somebody from a record company was present at one of the parties and heard her, and that's what happened. Her first recordings appeared in the HMV catalogue in 1939. The Spinning Wheel, If I Were a Blackbird, and Three Lovely Lassies from Banyan were in that batch, and overnight she became a star of radio, not only in Ireland but in London and on Radio Luxembourg. She also recorded What Would You Do, Love in that first session, one of many very popular duets that she was to record with the northern singer and collector Richard Hayward.
What will you do, love, when I am going? With the white sails flowing, the seas beyond. What will you do, love, when waves divide us and friends may chide us for being fond?
The waves divide us and friends may chide us. In faith abiding, I'll still be true, and I'll pray for you on the stormy ocean with deep devotion. That's what I do.
Delia Murphy, of course, also with her links with her own community, had a great collection of songs, and meeting up with Richard Hayward, who was a collector here, a man who mined very deep into the whole musical mountain that is parcel of the North. They're coming together, brought out a lot of great songs.
Delia's rebellious nature would not be put down. Although she was a diplomat's wife, she hated stuffed shirts.
She was middle class, educated, well connected, you know, with the intelligentsia and the aristocracy and everything. But she'd go to the dance halls and everybody thought she was a tinker. She'd go in there, have a few beers, she'd come on stage semi-drunk, or at least pretend to be. It was known that she'd be drinking backstage. and she'd come on with the old Mayo accent.
She was just an incredible singer, so natural and obviously never elocuted. And she had that lovely Western accent in her singing, the broad vowels.
She'd come on stage, no microphone, and she'd come in, well, boys, how's the sub? Which is a building expression, you know, meaning, can I have an advance of my money before payday? How are you fixed for a sub, she'd say. And they'd all scream. And she'd sit on the edge of the stage with the feet dangling down and just sing all her repertory and all the... They were all published by Waltons, weren't they? And recorded by Regal Zonophone, so they could buy the records. But they all thought she was a tinker, and because she put on the old act.
And do the best you can, and it's down the country I go with me roving journeyman.
You have to have the structured and sort of, in a way, the classical side, which Delia would have had from her education, and you also have to have that sort of, that heart or that feeling or that sort of basic thing, which, you know, it was there, it was obvious when you saw her on stage, that she had that very earthy feeling.
She had the double persona, really. I mean, she was posh and, you know, she knew upper-class people and she knew the Prince of Wales and all that business, but she also knew the ordinary working Irishman, which is rather nice, I think.
For a woman of her status and standing to go out and to drink with the lads before and maybe after these concerts and to stand up and sing, some people had a problem with that. It wasn't the quite respectable thing to do.
This would have, this sort of almost barroom territory, you know? It would have been frowned on. So she had to break the mould and break a strong mould.
The social expectations were so powerful that women accepted that restricted role. Singing wasn't maybe as defiant an act in the home as taking up an instrument, but when you stepped outside the home, when you entered into an arena that was dominated by men, and you could count the women of one hand who were doing it, we're talking about very powerful women, and Delia Murphy was such a woman.
So you were spared, love, I'd bless the morrow with wanton sorrow that left me you, and I'd welcome you from the waist and below. This heart, your pillow, that's what I'd do. Though waves divide us and friends may chide us, our love will guide us, will still be true. And through stormy weather we'll sail together, no more to sever, that's what we'll do.
Following her success with those early recordings, Delia was in much demand for concert appearances up and down the country. There are many great stories that show her larger-than-life persona. For example, she was singing at a céilí in Belfast on Easter Tuesday 1941, the night the city was bombed in the Blitz.
There was a céilí in the Ulster Hall in Belfast. It would have ended about 10:30 or 11, where people would have got the last tram home. But they didn't get the last tram home that night because about 10:30, the siren sounded. The bombers came over. Belfast was unprotected, had no fighter planes, hardly any anti-aircraft guns. So they just knocked the tower out of Belfast for 5 or 6 hours. The story of the Ulster Hall was because Delia Murphy was there. Nobody was allowed out of the Ulster Hall. You couldn't have gone out anyway. There was the noise of bombs going off, the noise of gunfire, bang, bang, the noise of fire brigade. She kept on singing. Song after the céilí band kept on thumping, 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 and it was about 5:30 in the morning when the doors were opened, the bombers had gone, people went out into the smoking ruins and the fires and all that, littered the streets. Most of the middle of Belfast had been wiped out, but she kept on singing. Nobody, if there were panic at it, nobody seemed to notice the panic or anything like that, or fear. because she was so engaging and the band was so serious about keeping it on. I don't know how they did it. The energy must have been going, both for the people who were dancing and the people who were on the stage.
Oh, who will plough the field, or who will sell the corn?
Delia had to leave her burgeoning stardom behind when Dr. Kiernan was posted to the Vatican in 1941 as the representative of neutral Ireland.
The Vatican was neutral at the time, so they were in the position of many Allied soldiers would escape through the leg of Italy and get into Rome, where they were immune. But the problem was to get them in and then to get them out as well.
That was a period when Delia became involved with Monsignor Hugh O'Flaherty, who was a Vatican diplomat, a Kerryman, known as the Scarlet Pimpernel of the Vatican because of his work in dealing with the 80,000 odd Allied ex-prisoners of war who were let loose when Italy opened the doors of the prisons and let them go.
They used Delia's diplomatic car and dressed up the Allies as priests.
They returned briefly to Ireland after the war, and Delia used the opportunity to record another batch of songs and to pick up her career. She used every opportunity to sing now, including her husband's inauguration as the very first Irish ambassador to Australia.
It is indeed a happy choice that from the land of song and of bards we should be graced by one of Ireland's leading exponents of balladry as the wife of the First Minister to Australia.
This song is called the Spinning Song, and if I sing it properly, you ought to be able to hear the wheel spinning. I suppose you all know what a spinning wheel is.
Delia continued to be one of the most popular voices on sponsored programmes on Radio Éireann.
On Saturday at home, it was a bit of a ritual at lunchtime on Saturday, when I was a young fella living in Marino in Dublin. The radio, the wireless would be on, as my father used to call it then, the wireless. And the Walton programme was the regular Saturday feature, presented by Leo Maguire.
This is the Walton programme, your weekly reminder of the grace and beauty that lie in our heritage of Irish song, the songs our fathers loved.
There was all sorts of great stuff on it. Down by the Glenside, Charlie McGee and his gay guitar. Great programme.
And invariably there'd be a couple of songs from Delia Murphy. And my father was a big fan of Delia. And if it was Delia, say, ah, that's Delia singing.
And Walton's last word is, if you feel like singing, do sing an Irish song.
Delia recorded nearly 80 songs in total at a time when the recording industry was in its infancy, and she had a vast repertoire, from sentimental songs to the more bawdy, and from pure traditional gems to the more popular sing-alongs.
To this day, when we're on tour, if I play this next tune, there is every night I always look around the band and they all smile because we always know this is coming. When I play the first 4 bars of this tune, there is from the audience there's an one of those things, and it is.
My favourite song is The Spinning Wheel because, as Delia said, if you sing it properly, you can see the spinning wheel go around. And I can almost feel Delia in the room when I hear the songs being sung, if they're sung well.
She would have taken the odd bawdy song and made it fit for consumption in the Vatican. That song, Coming Home from the Wake. Coming home from the wake, coming home from the wake. So we'll all be together coming home from the wake. The original versions of that song certainly could not have been sung in the Vatican.
Back together, coming home from the wake, coming home from the wake, coming home from the wake.
Sometimes the song she would sing would be double entendre songs, and she'd say, this is the version I sing of The Wake in Kildare, or Roger from Kildare. This is the one I sing for the nuns and the priests, she says. And this is the one I sing for me friends.
Johnny the Daisy-O. I mean, that's, here's to Johnny the Daisy-O, 'twas you were that never was lazy. Or, I wish you were in jail, old man. Your absence I wouldn't bewail, old man. If you were in jail, I'd pay you no bail, and that'd suit Johnny the Journeyman. That's a ferociously subversive thing to say for a woman at that time.
From Canberra, Delia and Tom and their 4 children moved to Bonn, then Ottawa, and then he was posted to Washington. But Delia decided to stay in Canada, where she lived until 1969, when she returned to live in the Strawberry Beds area of Dublin. She died not long after, early in 1971.
Wish I had Johnny the Journeyman, wish I had Johnny the Journeyman. We'd trumpet all day, we'd be happy and gay, and my life would be idle and easy. Oh, I'll make tea for you, old man, and I'll make coffee for me, old man. Tea for you and coffee for me, but the whiskey for Johnny the Journeyman. Here's to Johnny the Daisy-O, polished his boots so neatly, oh, with his 3-cocked hat and his double row knot and his fiddle for coaxing the ladies, oh.
Delia Murphy was a one-off. While her husband was a political ambassador, she was Ireland's first true musical ambassador. She gave us permission to sing our own songs and made us proud of our heritage.
For the thousands who gathered here, Delia Murphy will always be the uncrowned queen of traditional Irish singing.
Ireland really was not proud of its own heritage. Irish people were a bit ashamed about talking of the fact that they were Irish. Were a little bit fearful of singing songs except in the privacy of their own homes.
Let's forget about that and have classical music and concerts and tenors. Liam Clancy put it to me, he said Ireland was up to her tonsils and tenors, light opera and heavy sopranos was the order of the day.
Here was Delia Murphy coming up saying, I'm proud to be Irish. Do you know about Ireland? This is what we are, this is what we stand for. This is who we are as people.
Whether she realised it or not, Delia's songs and the way she sang them were to play a major part in the folk revival of the 50s and 60s.
The first time I heard Delia on the radio was on the Gay Byrne show. And he said, we have Delia Murphy, the mammy of them all. And he was right, she was the mammy of them all. But I don't think that she, in other words, nobody went before her. So she wouldn't have thought to herself, here's a market that I can go into. I think it just came natural. I think it sort of burst out of her, really.
She certainly brought to the Irish audience a body of song and material which they had never heard before. Who was there before Delia Murphy?
They would have followed on from Delia, those singers, like Margaret Barry and Bridie Gallagher, particularly, I think. She would have been a figurehead for them that they could follow.
And she influenced Mary O'Hara and Ruby Murray. They all recorded songs that were first sung by Delia Murphy. In fact, there probably isn't an Irish folk singer, male or female, past or present, that hasn't been in some way influenced by her, including yours truly.
I wish that you were in jail, old man. If you were in jail, I'd give you no bail, and that would suit Johnny the Journeyman. I wish I had Johnny the Journeyman. Wish I had Johnny the Journeyman. With his weekly pay, we'd be happy and gay, and my life would be idle and easy. Oh, here's to Johnny the Daisy-O, polished his boots so neatly. Oh, with his 3-cocked hat and his double row knot and his fiddle for coaxing the ladies. Oh. Here's to Johnny the Daisy-O, polished his boots so neatly, oh, with his 3-cocked hat and his double row knot and his fiddle for coaxing the ladies, oh. Here's to Johnny the Daisy-O, polished his boots so neatly, oh, with his 3-cocked hat and his double row knot and his fiddle for coaxing the ladies, oh. Here's to Johnny the Daisy-O, polished his boots so neatly, oh, with his 3-cocked hat and his double row knot and his fiddle for coaxing the ladies, oh.
Fil Campbell Songbirds, CD available now.